Hello guys, in today's video I would like to show you how to weather these buildings to the level that I've weathered them for my Shadow War Armageddon table. So to begin with, as you can see, I've built these crates, these sections out of cans. They've been covered with some builder's net that you use for some drywall, corrugated cardboard, some SimCity or something like that bits. These were supposed to be buildings, I believe. Some IKEA drawer holders, some normal cardboard, a little bit of GW 40K elements, and some more buildings, some more IKEA, and some wooden sticks. So I've used that to build those buildings. I've painted them in ivory color and did some attempt at red strips along them just to bring some contrast to them. Obviously now what we need to do is to do a little bit of weathering, but before we go to that we need to cover these bits in Warplock bronze, give them another layer, and when I do that I'm gonna come back and show you how to progress with 3 different ways of weather the building, or anything really, vehicles as well. And I'm gonna be doing all 3 on this building, as I think that the different techniques give us different results, but only a combination of them give us a little bit of a natural weathered look. So I'm just gonna do this, do the layer, and come back. Now we have that done, we can proceed with weathering proper. And the basic technique that we're gonna use is going to be weathering it with some paint. The paint I'm using is System 3 original paint that you can buy in any artist shop, you know, where you can buy your supplies. But I'm not gonna be using it straight from the tube. I've watered it down with some mineral water. I just use old mineral water without fizz, something that I use. And so you shake it well. Well, don't shake it that hard. I managed to push my camera away. So now we've got that sorted. It's all nicely mixed. What I'm gonna do is use an artificial bristle brush and apply it, and then use old large dry brush, which is actually dry, to sort of spread it around. And whenever I feel that I've got too much paint on this brush, I'm just gonna use a bit of tissue, or tissue as some of you say, to dry it up. And we are going to do it twice. We're going to go twice around the whole can. I'm just gonna show you one layer, as you know, you probably don't want to watch the whole process. So I'm actually dipping my brush deep in the at the end of the pot, at the bottom of the pot, just because the most pigment is gonna be there. So let's start. Lots of paint over here, and yeah, you might think, well, it looks rubbish, why are you doing this this way? Well, because this is not the end. So I'm covering like most of it, right? Put the brush in, and now with the dry brush I'm just gonna do those streaks. And that might be a bit too much. Yeah, actually I think I went a little bit over the board, but it's not a problem. It's a flat panel, so it needs some extra details. What you can do extra is take some cloth and just dry it like that. Just create as many streaks as you can. Right, so it doesn't look that uniform and it's not nice and neat like that. So with that, you cover everything. Oh, even those little things, cover weather them as well. Don't forget about those details. And now let's move on. And especially we need to be very careful, not careful, we need to be pay attention to those crevices, because we need to get in there as well. This is quite a boring surface as it is, so right, and now the bottom. A little bit of paint on the bottom. Right, and spread it around. Basically try to make sure that there are no pulling like that. So whenever you see this kind of paint going together, creating a little pool of paint, make sure that you spread it around. Right, so now we've got that done, we need to dry it, and for that we're gonna use a blow dryer and move on to the next step. So, we've got a first layer, and it looks grimy enough, but we're not gonna stop there. The reason why I do it in 2 layers rather than 1 is, first of all, well, 2 thin coats are better than 1. Very old joke, but this, if you do it like that, when you cover the whole surface, it sort of creates a undercoat, a base coat, and this time the paint is going to stick better in places where we actually put it. So that's the reason why you have to do it in 2 stages. So I'm just gonna mix this up, and yes, that's still our brown paint. It just sort of separates like that when not used. I'm just gonna put it off the shot, sorry, over here. And picking from the very bottom of the jar, I'm just gonna cover it once again. And now this time focusing more on the top, where I want the paint to stay, because I'm just gonna be doing this. Right, so that's the first, and now we need to do the bottom and the very lip sort of thing. I hope you can see it well on the camera, I'm not too sure. And now you see, we covered this section very uniformly, and you can barely see that there's hardly any cover. So yeah, I'm just gonna do this again. Right, perfectly. If it just spills like that, it's even better. I think it's too wet and it's too uniform a surface to leave it like that, so just go upwards. Some down, some up, some down, and now you create this non-uniform, as I try to call it, organic feel to it. Organic in a way that, you know, it feels like it could actually get weathered this way. Right, and we're done. We've done it all around the can. So now we need to clean off our brushes and move to step number 2. The next thing we need to do is to do 2 things. First of all, add some posters, and I've got plenty of posters over here that I've printed out years ago, and I'll be sticking them onto the walls. 2 or 3 maybe. I only have place here and here because it's gonna be hard to put posters on this corrugated, cardboard. And the next thing is to highlight all this brazen bronze stain. So I'm gonna be highlighting this with 2 colors, and one of them is Runelord Brass and the other one is Gehenna's Gold. So you need to shake them well and do the highlights after. Let me just find the brush. That's the brush I want to be using. Right. So Runelord Brass, shake it off, and then take a little bit, not too much, just a little bit, and put it in here. And what I do usually is just to do a little bit from the top, like to 2/3. The same here, and over here you can try to paint the one of the shapes and do over here 2/3 as well. And on things like sticking out, just do a slight dry brush. Same here, just a little bit here and there. And the reason why we're doing this, and the reason why we're not doing it very with a lot of attention to detail, is that it's just to break off the singular monotone color, and that's it. I'm not doing an actual highlight, I'm just doing, you know, breaking off the single color. That's it, that's all to it. And you might have a different technique, so, you know, a different idea on how to do it. Go ahead and do it, but it's just the way I do it. It's just a nice and easy and quick approach. And I'm a bit lazy with that, so the same over here. And a little bit from the bottom. And the buildings, just do a dry brush. Right, so we've got that. And now, without cleaning this brush too much, let's move on to Gehenna's Gold. Shake it properly. Right, almost forgot. Before we move on, what we need to do is take a sponge and take the remains of the paint and just go like that, put it on the sponge, and try to do all the areas that are still there at the bottom, especially the ones that you've not highlighted, and just do sort of like dips like that. I don't know how you call it. Just put the sponge on there, and just go tap 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 tap. What it does, it just again breaks the color if we missed a spot, if it's too monotone, and it's also it also gives a little bit of texture. Now let's move to Gehenna's Gold. Come on, right, nice. And do exactly the same, but instead of 2/3, go 1/3. It works for all metallics, this kind of approach. Right, so we've got that done, and let's take the other end of the sponge, or even the same if you want, if you're lazy, or like me, you don't want to waste any paint, and just do the depths again. And you can even go on to the different part of the model as well. Tap, 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 tap. Don't be too precise with that. Right, so when that's done, quick stick. I don't know if you have that in US. That's something I bought in UK, I believe, years ago. And yes, I'm putting the posters with a paper glue because of two reasons. It's paper, and I'm gluing the paper bits, and the varnish that I'm going to be putting on as the last stage is going to seal them in, so it's fine. And one more thing that someone might be pointing out in a second in the comment section is, why have I not weathered the posters as well with this method? And the reason is that I found out that when I do it with this really wet method, it sometimes basically wets the posters too much, and you can't really see the posters because they are covered in muck, or whatever you call it, in dirt. So I don't do it now. I mean, I've done on one of the earlier levels, tiers, and I didn't like the result. It was too dirty. And obviously some of the posters might be put in before or after the thing sort of got wet. So again, what I always say with things like doing weathering or doing something like that, try to be organic as possible. Any templates, any regularity is not organic, and if you do it like that, then you just lose this a little bit of immersion, I would say. I mean, obviously this building is not very immersive, but it's okay, it does the job. But enough chit chat, let's move on to the next stage. And the next stage is another bit of weathering, and we're gonna be using another sponge, and this sponge is clean from both sides. So brown paint, and the same brown that I've used on here. You can use another color like I don't know, Scrag brown or XV88 or I don't know, Towelite ochre. They're all rusty enough sort of looking, but I wouldn't go too crazy on the color. I wouldn't use something like Trollslayer orange because it might look odd. So I'm just gonna use this because I've used this color and this method on other sections, and we're gonna be using some pigments in the next stage, so they are going to give us this orangey, rusty look. Right, so this is the same brown, and this is the second weathering method. It's sponging, whatever you call it, and on top of that we're going to be putting lead belcher as scratches. So a little bit of paint onto the palette, and literally this is more than enough, I think. It should be. Take the sponge and just go crazy and start doing this on like that. What you can do is just try changing the angle from time to time, so it doesn't look that regular, and whenever you do too much, just do like that. When you do too much in one spot, and then go over the posters because it's gonna cover them slightly, not too much. Right, check, 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 check. Dab, 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 dab. Tap, 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 tap. Tap, 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 tap. Oh, tap, 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 tap. Try to go crazy on the edges over here because they would go probably very scratched. Get scratched a lot. That's what I wanted to say. Jesus, I can't speak English properly when I do stuff, and I can't think about two complex things at the same time. Right, now let's take a brush, shake the paint, take a small blob of paint. Right, take a sponge, clean the brush into the sponge. So I've got that much paint, and just try to clean off the CD, the movie CD that I've got over here. Some old CD that doesn't work properly. Tap, 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 tap. And try to mostly go in places where you've already put the brown on. But don't limit yourself to that, just go everywhere. Everywhere you want, really. And especially things like that. Tap, 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 tap. Obviously try to avoid paper things. Paper wouldn't get scratched into metal color. It might get dirty, but not scratched, I think. Unless you want to simulate really deep scratches that would go straight to metal underneath, through the glue and everything, you know. Tap, 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 tap. Tap, tap. Right, so that's done. What we need to do is to dry it. Right, I could say that that's dry enough. Now what we need to do is to take our pigments, and for that I'm going to be using Cromlech pigments, and that's going to be Cromlech Red Dust pigment and Cromlech's Orange Rust pigment, and that's why I haven't used any aggressive colors like Troll Slayer Orange or even Ryza Rust, that's what I want to say, because I've got all muted colors over here and I'm gonna be using very aggressive colors right now. So for that I just go into the corners and just put some of the pigment into the corners, everywhere really, and then alternate between two. And that's it. That's all to it, really. Of course, if you don't have pigments, you can use Rise or Rust if you've got that paint. You can use anywhere, anything really that you want to. If you want to use paint, just use the same method as with the browns. Just be more conservative with it, because obviously it wouldn't get that much rust as the whole can, right? I mean, unless that's the result you want to go for. Obviously, everything I do over here is very subjective. That's the result I'm going for. It might not necessarily be the thing that you're gonna be going for. So do it as you wish. I'm just showing you techniques on how to do it, and how and to what extent you want to use them is up to you. There is no wrong with this, really. Obviously, some people will try to tell you that, oh, you've just wasted a little bit of pigment here and there, but it's your terrain. They can tell you, well, you haven't used it properly. You could do it better, and this is the way. And you can always think about it. You know, whenever people tell you that you've done something wrong, just consider if you actually had done something wrong. Think about it. If you think that, yeah, maybe I've done it wrong, but that's the way I like it, seriously, fuck them. You know, just do what we want. Okay, so that's the terrain done. The piece of terrain done. That's the piece of terrain done. And what it needs now is I need to varnish it with matte varnish and paint the bottom black, because that's what I want. And it gets very dirty with, you know, with the paint and the pigments and everything. So that's it. That's the building done. Thank you guys for watching. I hope it wasn't too long and too boring. In the comments, please let me know if you would like to see any more tutorials from me. If you have any ideas or any questions how to do this and that, just ask me. If I know it, I'll just do a tutorial. If I don't know it, I might investigate it and show you how I would do it if it was me. So thank you guys. I'll see you next time. Take care.